I could feel it, as clear as day. Maya was changing. She wasn't just the girl next door, she was the girl. The younger of the two Fong sisters, with Chloe, her older sister, always a few steps ahead of us. Maya and I were the same age, which meant our lives had always been tangled together. Our parents weren't just colleagues, they were best friends. Neighbors who had been side by side for as long as I could remember. That made us, Chloe, Maya, and me, a package deal. We ate together, walked to school together. My entire childhood was tied up with theirs. Then Chloe left for college on the West Coast. And the faint, half-formed crush I'd carried for her just dissolved into this dull ache of missing her. Which left me with Maya. Just Maya. We were freshmen in high school then, that perfect awkward age where crushes bloom like weeds, wild, unstoppable, a little embarrassing. And mine? It was all for her. Maybe it was because we'd always been together. Maybe it was because she was beautiful in this way that didn't need effort, like sunlight spilling through a window. Or maybe it was just that she fit exactly into the shape of what I thought love should look like. Whatever the reason, from the very first day of 9th grade, I wanted her. But Maya, she was a dreamer. A mix of romance and practicality. She hinted that she might feel the same, but she always stopped short, saying we were too young to make it official. I'll never forget one afternoon, sun slanting through the trees, when I drove her to the library in my old, beat-up Civic. We picked a table tucked beneath an air vent. The cool air stirred her dark hair as she bent over her book, and the sight of her, quiet and focused, knocked every thought clean out of my head. Before I knew what I was doing, the words just spilled out. Maya, will you be my girlfriend? The second I said it, regret crashed over me. My stomach flipped, my eyes darted around, desperate to see if anyone had overheard. But it was just us. I looked back at her, and she was staring at me, wide-eyed, caught between shock and something I couldn't read. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like the whole library could hear it. Then she spoke. We're still too young. The words hit me like ice water. I thought it was over, thought she was about to shut me down completely. I looked away, already trying to figure out how to turn it into a joke, how to laugh it off. But then she added, after college acceptances come out, if you ask me to prom in front of the whole school, I might just say yes. I looked up. A playful smile was tugging at her lips. She stuck out her tongue, that mischievous glint in her eye, and I watched sunlight catch the blush rising up her neck and ears. Relief and joy hit me so hard I almost shot out of my chair. My whole body was buzzing. If I hadn't stopped myself, I would have shouted in the middle of that silent library. Deal, I grinned. I'll give you the biggest, most over-the-top proposal anyone's ever seen. We were 15. That perfect age when love feels like it's everything, the only thing. From that day on, there was this unspoken understanding between us. We walked to class together. Split milkshakes. Spread our homework across the same table. Day by day, we got closer. In my head, it was already written, childhood sweethearts, first loves, destined to walk hand in hand all the way to the finish line. But life has a way of slipping in cracks when you least expect it. Ours showed up junior year, in the shape of a sophomore named Ethan. He saw Maya once and couldn't look away. But with me always by her side, he couldn't come at her directly. So, he got clever. He engineered coincidences. He was always just there. On our walk to school. Loitering outside our classroom between periods. Accidentally running into us on the way home. Little by little, he started to chip at her attention. Small gifts, endless compliments, a charm I never had. Maya had always been drawn to grand gestures. Why else would she ask for a public proposal? And me. I wasn't built for flattery or constant pursuit. I didn't know how to woo her with words, but I had something else. I knew her better than anyone. And I could see the shift before she admitted it. The way her eyes lingered on him. The way her laughter bent in his direction. And when I felt that, when I knew she was slipping, I did what I've always done best, I pulled back. I buried myself in books, in SAT prep, in college applications. My dad once told me, if you feel small next to someone you love, don't shrink. Grow. Maybe he always knew Maya wasn't the kind to settle down young. At first, She brushed it all off. She started inviting Ethan to lunch with us, always keeping her spot next to me, but giving him her best energy. Her brightest smiles, her liveliest conversations. I told her once, flat out, that she was getting too close to him. She laughed, waved it away. He's just a friend, Leo. I'm not going to fall for someone else. Her words silenced me. But her face, the way she looked at him, that told a different story. And inside, it hurt. First sharp, then dull, until finally, it just settled into something I could live with. Because some things you can't fight. Some people aren't yours to keep, no matter how much you want them to be. And if our story was going to be tainted, then maybe ending it was the only way to move forward. So I let go. Quietly, without drama. I poured myself into the one thing I could control, my future. My studies. My next chapter. Because sometimes, letting go isn't about weakness. Sometimes it's the only way to start again. The conversations between Maya and me started to fade, slipping into silence without her even noticing. We still shared the same desk in AP History, but every break she'd vanish, running off to find Ethan, while I sat alone with my stack of practice tests. Maya and Chloe had always shared one thing: they were naturally brilliant. We'd study together, scribble down the same homework, but somehow Maya always came out 20, 30 points ahead. And if I wanted UCLA, the same place Chloe had gone, I knew I'd have to fight twice as hard. So I did. Piles of practice tests and dead pens scattered across my desk told the story. I thought about derivatives and essay prompts even while I chewed my dinner. Sometimes Maya teased me for being obsessive, but soon even that stopped. She went back to her phone, fingers flying, eyes glued to Ethan's name lighting up her screen. At night, I kept at it. Problem set after problem set. And every so often, when my eyes burned and I needed a break, I'd glance out the window toward her room. She used to sit at her desk facing me, the two of us catching each other's eyes across the way. She'd flash me a sweet smile or I'd pull a goofy face, and it was enough to fuel me for another hour. But now, her chair was empty. Her desk abandoned. She was probably stretched out on her bed, laughing into her phone, giving someone else the smiles that once belonged to me. Even though I told myself I'd let go, a sour knot twisted in my stomach. I shook it off, reminding myself of the bigger picture. Think about Mom. Think about Dad. No matter how drained they were from work, they still came home, cooked dinner, made sure I had a hot meal waiting. Whenever I offered to help, Mom would just nudge me back toward my desk. Your job is to study. Don't waste a single minute. And Dad, he went even further. He spent a fortune we didn't really have on an online SAT tutor, just to give me an edge. I overheard him one night, telling Mom it cost nearly 2 months' salary for a 2-week crash course. 2 months' salary, just so I'd have a shot. I went back to my desk that night with my jaw set. From then on, I didn't look at Maya's window once. As graduation crept closer, she started to notice the distance. Sitting beside me in the passenger seat, she complained that I'd been acting weird. Finals are coming up, I said flatly. I don't have time to think about anything else. She scoffed. Don't tell me you're still aiming for UCLA. Chloe's way smarter than you, and she barely scraped by. You should give up on that. Just aim for state. I caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. And in that moment, I saw it, just a flicker, but clear as day. Contempt. She might not have looked down on me in every way, but in that moment, she did. It's just a goal, I said evenly, refusing to take the bait. And she wasn't wrong. I was still 150 points shy of UCLA's average. It was a long shot. Maybe even impossible. She must have realized she'd crossed a line, because she started to stumble through an explanation. But then Ethan pulled up alongside us, flashy new bike and all, and her focus snapped to him like a magnet. The rest of the ride, she leaned across my window, laughing, joking, talking with him. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, my eyes locked on the road. She was in my car, laughing with someone else. And when Ethan asked if she wanted to hop on the back of his bike, she hesitated. Just for a second. Then said no. But the hesitation was enough. The last week of school, Ethan finally made his move. Maya, he said, using the nickname she once told me was reserved only for family and me. Since you're graduating and going off to college, can I at least give you a ride for this last week? She didn't even flinch at the nickname. She just glanced at me, torn, like she was stuck between guilt and desire. It's fine, I said lightly, flipping open a textbook. Go with him. Save me some gas. Gives me more time at the library. She hesitated, but eventually nodded. And just like that, for the entire last week of school, she rode with him. I started leaving earlier each morning, deliberately missing them. The first day, she stormed into homeroom and glared at me, but I only gave her the briefest look before burying myself in work. After that, she stopped trying. Even at lunch, she sat with Ethan's friends instead of beside me. My own friends kept asking what happened, and I just told them the truth. Maya and I were only neighbors. Nothing more. With no distractions, my world narrowed to finals. And when graduation day arrived, I stood taller than I'd ever felt. My parents fussed over my cap and gown, checking it again and again, and in that moment, my chest filled with gratitude. I can do this, I told myself. When it was over, they didn't ask about finals, didn't ask if I was nervous about my scores. They just pulled me into a hug, already talking about a celebratory trip. I laughed, told them all I wanted was to sleep for a week. Dad clapped my shoulder, Mom ushered me to the car, and that night, I collapsed into bed. I slept until my body woke up on its own. No alarms, no tension, no thoughts of tests or scores. A year's worth of stress melted off me in a single morning. I stretched, lazy and unhurried, not ready to leave bed even though I wasn't tired anymore. Eventually, I wandered into the living room around noon and froze. Maya's parents were sitting with mine, planning a joint family vacation like nothing had changed. They lit up when they saw me. "Why haven't you been over to see Maya?" they asked warmly. I smiled, steady and practiced. I had to focus on studying. But now I'm free. I've got plenty of time. Mrs. Fong's eyes curved into crescent moons as she pulled me down beside her, like I'd never left at all. "Where do you want to go, Leo?" she asked. I thought for a second, then shrugged. Maybe a road trip, see the national parks. Zion, maybe. Her smile widened instantly. She glanced at her husband, and without another word, it was settled. That was exactly what she had in mind. Just like that, both families were heading on a week-long road trip to Utah. 2 days later, Chloe was back. Still the same, gentle, warm, carrying that calmness that always made people want to be near her. The first thing she did was press a little box into my hands. Inside was the limited edition anime figure I'd been chasing for months. I couldn't help it, I hugged her. Just a quick squeeze, but enough to feel her warmth before pulling away, suddenly aware of myself. That's when I saw Maya, staring. Her face twisted with something sharp, something sour. "It's okay, Leo," Chloe said with that soft smile of hers. "It's not like you didn't hug me all the time when we were kids." Her words made my face flush, and for just a moment, looking at her fair and pretty features, I felt something stir in my chest. When the trip began, 2 cars set off. In the past, Maya would have jumped into my car without hesitation. This time, she chose her families. "Just the 3 of us in here," my mom called out with a laugh. "Anyone want to liven things up?" And then, to my surprise, Chloe started walking toward our car. At the very same moment, Maya's door flew open. She bolted toward us too. In the end, I was stuck between the 2 sisters, shoulder to shoulder, though the air was anything but peaceful. Unconsciously, I leaned toward Chloe, asking about her college life. She answered everything with the same grace as always, funny little stories, interesting details, memories that lit up her face. We talked and laughed like no time had passed at all. I didn't notice Maya's expression darken beside me. All I saw was Chloe, the older sister who had always watched over me. The days flew by in laughter and adventure. Everyone had fun, everyone except Maya. Her mood hovered like a storm cloud. Her mother scolded her more than once, but it didn't help. The only time her face softened was when her phone buzzed, lighting her up for a few moments before she sank into the screen again. One afternoon, Chloe watched her quietly, her eyes thoughtful, before her gaze drifted to me. But I was too busy marveling at the canyon views to notice. By the end of the trip, I couldn't stop grinning at a photo on my phone. It was just me and Chloe on a boat, me pointing wildly at something in the distance, her watching me with a soft smile that made my chest ache. We looked so close. So natural. I kept replaying it in my head, while another photo, a candid of Maya, distant, glued to her phone while I leaned toward Chloe, felt like proof of the space between us. We were only inches apart in the picture, but it might as well have been miles. When Maya saw that photo, she froze. For a second, guilt flickered across her face. But I scrolled past, pretending I didn't see it. From then on, she started showing up. All the time. Knocking at my door, asking me over for dinner, finding excuses to just be around. And I didn't push her away, but I didn't let her close either. Not like before. The easy warmth we used to share had cooled. Now, we were just friends. Ordinary friends. She tried to act cheerful, but the cracks were obvious. Then came the day we had to finalize our college choices. She was already at my door, waiting, her face caught somewhere between hope and fear. I brushed past it, rolling my bike out of the garage. "Let's go," I said, patting the back seat. Halfway there, her arms wrapped tightly around my waist, her voice trembling with something raw. "Leo, are you still going to keep your promise?" Her grip was so tight it was hard to steer. I told her to loosen up, but she wouldn't. I pulled over. The wind tangled her hair across her face, and for a moment she looked heartbreakingly fragile. "We made a deal," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "You can't go back on your word." I stared at her, the girl I had grown up with, the girl who had once been my whole world. And for one reckless moment, I felt it again, that fear of losing her. That need to hold on. "Okay," I said softly. "One last chance. If she wanted me, really wanted me, if she could let go of everyone else, I'd give her that chance." When we finally reached school, the counselor pulled me aside, glowing with excitement. At that same moment, Maya's phone rang. She muttered something about the restroom and slipped out. I barely noticed. My counselor was grinning, waving papers in the air, announcing my results. My SAT score was out. And it was a full 150 points higher than my best practice test. The whole room froze. Dozens of eyes turned to me, wide with shock, disbelief. But all I could think about was Maya, slipping away again. Getting into UCLA was no longer a dream, it was a done deal. I signed the decision form with steady hands, but when I looked around, Maya still hadn't returned. I called her. The line rang, and rang, until she finally picked up. The noise behind her told me she was outside. "I'm on the athletic field. I'll be right back," she said quickly before hanging up. Something didn't feel right. So I grabbed her form and went to find her. As I got closer, I saw it, a crowd gathered in the center of the field. And right there, in the middle, was Maya. Ethan stood in front of her, holding a massive bouquet of roses, pouring his heart out in front of everyone. It was a public proposal, a spectacle meant to corner her. Maya bit her lip, torn, trapped. She hadn't said yes. She hadn't said no. And in that moment, I made a choice. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small box I'd been saving. Inside was a silver necklace, not expensive, but something I knew she loved. She'd once pointed it out at the mall, her allowance too small to buy it. Back then, when she was my world, I remembered every little detail. Now it was time to keep my promise. I stepped into the circle, ignoring the stares, ignoring Ethan. "Maya," I said, holding the box open, "I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" The crowd hushed. Ethan's smile vanished as he saw her eyes flicker, not at his roses, but at my necklace. For one brief second, she lit up. But then Ethan leaned in, whispering something only she could hear. Her expression shifted instantly. Her gaze darted to his sister, watching from the sidelines, and in the next breath, she took his flowers. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The message was clear. I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Well, Maya, I kept my promise." Then I tossed the necklace onto the grass, shoved her form into her hand, and walked away without looking back. I could feel their eyes on me, pity, scorn, amusement, but I felt nothing. I wasn't humiliated. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just a man who kept his word. And she had just burned her last chance. From now on, we were only neighbors. Nothing more. When I got home, my mother frowned. Leo, why did some other boy drop Maya off? Were you being moody again? I told her Maya had things to do and would be home later. Mom studied me for a moment, then sighed and let it go. Not long after, Maya appeared in my doorway. Her eyes were timid, almost desperate. Leo. Ethan's sister was there. I didn't want to embarrass him. That's the only reason I did it. Please don't be mad. The excuse was laughable. I looked at her, and she couldn't even meet my gaze. She stepped closer, tugging on my arm, her voice soft, pleading. Oh, come on, Leo. I know I messed up. Just this once. I promise it'll never happen again. Ask me again, I'll say yes this time. I swear. But the sound of her voice, that sweet tone she probably used on Ethan too, only made my stomach turn. Whatever was on my face must have been colder than I intended, because she froze, staring at me in disbelief. Just then, my mom walked back in, smiling as if nothing was wrong. Maya, stay for dinner, she offered warmly. Mom, I cut in before Maya could answer, she has plans later. She can't stay. Maya's face fell, but in front of my mother, she forced a brittle smile and left. Minutes later, my phone lit up message after message. Long paragraphs, excuses, childhood memories, please. I didn't read them. I sent one line back, did you ever stop to think that I might be humiliated too? And that was it. I put the phone down and never opened another word she sent. Summer came. My friends and I picked up jobs at a mall a few towns over. The shifts were long, messy, scattered. Maya showed up a few times, but I was always behind the counter, busy. We didn't see each other once that whole summer. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't reply to her texts. The first time I saw her again was on the night I got my first real paycheck. I'd promised Chloe I'd take her out to celebrate. But Maya came too, tagging along, a little too eager, a little too bright. She tried to chat, tried to pull me back into her orbit. I answered politely, but my words were short, clipped. Her phone buzzed over and over in her pocket, but she ignored it. She couldn't bring up what happened, not with Chloe there. Instead, she just kept throwing guilty glances my way. Chloe, though. Chloe didn't say a word. She simply watched the traffic as if it was the only thing that mattered, her calm presence filling the silence. Then Maya's phone rang again. She rejected it. Twice. The third time, she glanced at me, saw I wasn't watching, and picked up. Her voice dropped to a whisper, sharp with annoyance. Whatever she heard on the other end drained the color from her face. She hung up quickly, conflicted, then rushed to flag down a cab. A friend of mine just got into town. I have to go meet them, she said breathlessly before disappearing into the night. And Chloe? She didn't seem surprised at all. She didn't mind. Instead, she smiled, reached for my hand, and held it gently. There's too much traffic here, she said softly. I'll feel better if I'm holding on. And just like that, it felt like we were kids again, back when Chloe was taller, stronger, the one who held on when I was too small to stand on my own. On the way home from elementary school, Chloe used to hold my hand. Back then, it just felt safe, like a habit. But now it sent a jolt through me. Her hand was soft, warm, and the closeness between us felt completely different from anything I'd ever known with Maya. I wanted to do something special for her. So I booked a table at a nice restaurant near the mall and ordered all of Chloe's favorites. For the first time in my life, I was the one paying. When the bill came, Chloe frowned, scolding me like I'd done something wrong. Leo, this place is way too expensive. Next time, just tell me what you want to eat. I'll cook it for you at home. I grinned. That's the whole reason I got a job, to be able to treat you to a real meal. And in that moment, it felt different. Significant. Like I wasn't just a kid anymore, I was stepping into a new version of myself, one where I could give something back to the person who'd always looked out for me. After dinner, we wandered the mall, drifting past shop windows until Chloe stopped at a watch counter. She studied them quietly, then picked one out and bought it without hesitation. When I saw the price tag, I nearly choked. Over $1,000. She rolled her eyes at my expression, a playful smile tugging at her lips. It's an investment. A watch lasts for years, unlike your dinner, which is already gone. I must have been staring too long, because a faint blush colored her cheeks. She looked away quickly, fastened the watch onto my wrist, and paid without another word. That's when we saw them, Maya, holding hands with Ethan, chatting with a girl I instantly recognized as his sister. Chloe's eyes narrowed, and before I could say anything, she walked straight toward them. Maya's face went pale. She immediately dropped Ethan's hand and rushed over, stammering excuses. My friend left, so I just ran into them. I was coming to find you guys, really. She tried to grab my arm to pull me away, but I pulled back. The look on her face, hurt, desperate, didn't move me anymore. Ethan's sister gave a polite nod, then tugged him off before things could get messier. Maya lingered, wanting to keep hanging out, but Chloe and I both claimed we were tired. She had no choice but to follow us home. As we parted ways, Maya gestured at her phone, telling me to check my messages. I ignored her. A few days later, suitcase in hand, I knocked on the Fong's door. Chloe was beside me, her luggage ready too. Maya opened the door, blinking in shock. You guys, she stammered, eyes darting between us. I just smiled, holding up my UCLA acceptance letter. Time to head to campus. Chloe and I are on the same flight. Her face crumbled. Tears welled up and spilled down her cheeks. Leo, you promised we'd go to the same college. I shook my head. No, Maya. I promised that if you asked me in front of the whole school, I'd say yes. And then we'd go to college together. But you forgot one thing. First, you turned me down. And second, I never said we'd go to the same college. She broke down, begging, clinging to me. No, Leo. You can't do this. If you leave, what am I supposed to do? Are we going to be long distance for 4 years? Her words made no sense. I looked at her, baffled. You rejected me. What's there to be long distance about? She grabbed my arm again, desperate, searching my face for some sign I was joking. You're just dropping Chloe off, right? There's no way your scores were high enough for UCLA. But before I could answer, my dad pulled up and honked the horn. It was time to go. I've never lied to you, Maya, I said simply, pulling free. Then I walked out the door without looking back. Chloe gave her sister's shoulder a gentle pat before joining me. And together, we left her standing there on the porch, tears streaming as she watched us disappear down the street. The city was alive with move-in traffic, cars jammed in every direction. My phone buzzed non-stop, Maya's name lighting up the screen over and over, but I didn't have to look. I already knew. Distracted before finals, she'd let her UCLA dream slip away. She was locked into the local state university. Maybe 4 years apart would give her time to figure herself out. As for me, I was buzzing with excitement. Not even gridlock could dampen it. At the airport, my dad pulled us aside, his voice firm but tender. Study hard. Look after Chloe. I will, I promised. Then I hugged him tightly, noticing for the first time the slope of his shoulders, the quiet weight of his years. Don't worry, Dad. I'm grown now. Take care of yourself and Mom. I'll be okay. As the plane taxied down the runway, I spotted him on the observation deck, waving. A lump rose in my throat, but I didn't look away. Hours later, Chloe and I stepped onto the UCLA campus. She moved with confidence, helping me register, showing me the ropes, even making my bed for me. My new roommates peeked in, wide-eyed. I caught the whispers envy, admiration, his girlfriend is gorgeous. And she takes care of him too. I didn't correct them. I just smiled. I didn't correct them. Why would I? The truth is, the misunderstanding gave me a thrill I couldn't explain. Afterward, I walked Chloe back to her dorm, her suitcase dragging behind us. When we reached the 5th floor, I carried it the rest of the way up, my shoulders burning. By the time we finally got there, sweat was running down my forehead. Chloe didn't even think twice, she pulled out a tissue, gently dabbed at my skin, her brow creased with quiet worry. That little moment, so small and so ordinary, struck deeper than I expected. Then her roommates arrived. The second they saw us together, their curiosity sharpened. They pulled Chloe aside almost immediately, whispering, giggling, sneaking glances in my direction like I was some unsolved mystery. I had no idea what she told them, but from the way they kept looking, it was clear they were asking about me. Not long after, the rest of her roommates showed up. Within minutes, Chloe was surrounded, 3 girls teasing her, laughing, insisting she treat them to a welcome-back dinner. She didn't hesitate, just said yes, and somehow, without even planning it, I ended up having dinner with 4 senior girls from her dorm. That was the beginning of a routine neither of us could have predicted. From then on, Chloe and I ate most of our meals together. We took long walks around campus in the evenings, the kind that slipped so easily into habit that I stopped noticing how natural it all felt. Word got around fast. Rumors spread, whispers passing through the halls, people were convinced we were a couple. I didn't know it at first. I only realized when one of my friends spotted us together and started teasing me, laughing as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. I was about to deny it, open my mouth and clear it all up, but before I could, Chloe slipped her arm through mine. Just like that, the rumor became truth. My friends smirked knowingly and walked away, leaving us alone. Chloe's cheeks were tinged pink. She turned to me and explained, almost apologetic, that she'd been dealing with guys constantly bothering her, persistence she was tired of. Pretending I was her boyfriend was the easiest way to get them to back off. I laughed, trying to lighten the moment. If that's the case, I'll never be able to find a girlfriend. Maybe you should just be my girlfriend for real, Chloe. I expected her to laugh it off. Tease me. Roll her eyes. But she didn't. She stopped walking, stopped completely, and looked at me. Her gaze was steady, unwavering. And then, so softly I almost didn't hear it, she said, "Okay." I froze. My heart stumbled. "Wait, are you serious?" I asked. Her voice grew stronger as she met my eyes. "Don't forget, I grew up with you too. We're childhood friends, Leo. Why can't I be the one who likes you?" The ground shifted under me. Chloe, beautiful, brilliant Chloe, was standing there telling me she wanted me. I stammered, struggling to process it. "But, you're gorgeous, Chloe. You're so smart. Why would you like me?" She didn't even flinch. She stood taller, her eyes warm and determined. "Leo, you're tall and handsome. You got into UCLA, same as me. Your grades are just as good as mine. Stop pretending you're not enough." Her words cracked something open in me. My throat tightened, my chest ached. And before I could think, I pulled her into my arms. Hugging Chloe had always felt natural, we'd been doing it since we were kids, but this time it was different. It was deeper. It was real. "Thank you for liking me," I whispered. And just like that, with no dramatic confession or grand stage, Chloe and I became a couple. Quietly, privately. At least for now. We didn't tell our families, not yet. Maya didn't know. Nobody back home knew. But on campus, everyone saw it. Everyone felt it. A couple months later, Chloe landed an internship. At first, she commuted from her dorm, but the late hours and constant overtime wore her down. She pulled some strings, found a position close to UCLA, and finally decided to rent her own apartment nearby. I encouraged it immediately. The idea of her having her own place and us having privacy was exciting enough. But then she looked at me, biting her lip, her voice shy but deliberate. "Do you want to move in with me?" The words crashed into me like a wave. Moving in together. Waking up next to her. Cooking dinner side by side. Building a life, our life. I agreed so quickly, so eagerly, that she burst out laughing at my expression. After weeks of searching, we found it, a small but perfect one-bedroom apartment. We filled it with our favorite things, with cozy furniture, with the little decorations that made it ours. And when I finally stood in the middle of that space, I could hardly believe it. I was living with Chloe. The reality didn't fully hit me until that night. She stepped out of the bathroom, cheeks pink, hair damp from her shower. She glanced at me shyly and murmured, "Your turn." And just like that, the dream became real. From then on, we lived like a married couple. She'd come home early just to cook for me. I'd surprise her with little gifts. There were no arguments, no friction, only harmony, born of years growing up side by side. Sometimes I'd get home first and set the table, a bouquet of flowers at the center, her favorite dishes waiting. Sometimes she'd arrive with a jersey from my favorite team, or an anime figure I'd been hunting for. Happiness made time rush forward. Before we knew it, winter break had arrived. On our last night, we had dinner in our apartment, shut the windows, turned off the water, unplugged every cord. We stood there for a moment, just looking around at the life we had built together, before finally walking out the door, arm in arm. The next day, we were on a flight home. I held her close, listening to her laugh as if time itself could stretch forever. My parents kept texting, asking when we'd land, their excitement bubbling through every message. Just before we touched down, I turned to her. "Chloe, it's time. We should tell our parents about us." For the first time, she hesitated. "What about Maya?" she asked quietly. "What about her?" I said without pause. "There's nothing between us. It doesn't matter what she thinks." Chloe studied me, then finally nodded. Still, she made me promise to let her be the one to announce it. When we walked out of the terminal, both sets of parents were waiting. Maya had classes and wasn't there. We all piled into my parents' car. I sat in the back with my mom, and immediately, she reached for my hand. She looked me over with that familiar mother's worry. "You've gotten thinner," she murmured, her fingers tightening. "And darker, after just one semester." Her voice carried a mix of pride and concern, and in that moment, I realized how much my world had changed. I laughed and flexed my arm. "It's not thinner, Mom. It's leaner." Orientation kept us moving non-stop. My parents chuckled, the tension easing, and we drove straight to Maya's campus to pick her up. She came walking out just as we pulled up, her whole face lighting up when she saw us. The truth was, I hadn't spoken to her in months. She called, she texted, she reached out every way she could, but I never sought her out. Once, I told her clearly we were only ever going to be friends. She refused to hear it. After that, I stopped answering anything that even hinted at flirting. At dinner that night, Chloe and I sat side by side. Maya tried to squeeze in next to me, but froze the second she noticed our hands locked together beneath the table. The color drained from her cheeks. Conversation flowed easily until Mrs. Fong, with her usual warmth, mentioned that Chloe was about to graduate. "It's time for her to find a nice boyfriend," she teased. That's when Chloe stood. Without hesitation, she pulled me to my feet and raised our joined hands for everyone to see. "Leo and I are together," she said simply. For a beat, silence hung heavy over the table. And then, laughter, glasses raised, joy spilling over. My dad and Mr. Fong clinked drinks, their smiles wide. "Looks like we're going to be family," Mr. Fong said proudly. "I've watched Leo grow up. I couldn't ask for a better son-in-law. And Chloe's a treasure," my dad replied, just as fiercely. "Gentle, kind. I'd be lucky to have her as my daughter-in-law." The two men launched into a contest of praise, already discussing engagement parties, wedding plans, even how many kids we should have. My dad declared that our family's gift would be $30,000, "Chloe deserves the best." Mr. Fong countered with his own booming promise, "You won't spend a dime. Everything I have will be theirs one day." The mothers leaned close, grinning ear to ear, whispering and sneaking glances at us like conspirators in happiness. Then Mr. Fong raised his glass again, his voice full of pride. "I have one condition. When you have a son, one of them must take my family name. And I'll throw in a house and a car for the wedding." My dad, already flushed with drink, slapped the table. "Done. The first boy can take your name. We're family now. Don't make it complicated." The whole table roared with laughter. Everyone was glowing except Maya. She sat in silence, pale, pushing food around her plate. Later that night, the laughter was gone. From next door, Chloe and I could hear shouting Maya and Chloe's first real fight. When I walked in, Chloe was standing her ground, her voice firm in a way I'd never heard. "Leo likes me," Maya screamed, tears in her eyes. "He asked me to be his girlfriend." How could you steal him from me? So what if he asked? Chloe shot back, her tone sharp as steel. You didn't say yes. What's wrong with me being with him? Mrs. Fong looked torn, her eyes flicking to me for answers. I gave her a quiet nod, then went to Chloe's side and took her hand. Maya, I said gently, the only reason I asked you out that day was because you pushed me to. I didn't even want to. I knew you'd choose Ethan. The fight seemed to drain out of her. She stumbled over her words, searching for another excuse. While half the school was laughing at me, I continued, my voice low but steady, you stood there and let it happen. Did you ever stop to think how humiliated I felt? And now you want to tell me that you and Ethan were just friends that day? Chloe and I saw you. Was he forcing you to be there? Did someone force you to meet his sister and hold his hand like his girlfriend? Have you even broken up with him yet? My questions hit like blows. Maya paled, trembling, unable to answer. At last, she whispered through her tears, I was only pretending. We weren't really together. I shook my head. Whether you meant to be with him or not, you already had someone else in your heart. You should have left me alone. And with that, there was nothing more to say. That night, Chloe came home with me. For the first time, she was officially introduced to my parents as my girlfriend. The rest of winter break passed like a blur. Chloe and I were inseparable. Maya barely spoke to her sister, and I barely thought of her at all. The day before we were supposed to return to school, Maya appeared at the door. Our families were throwing an engagement party that evening, and Chloe and I were set to leave for LA the very next morning. Still, Maya asked us to step outside. Waiting there was Ethan, his arm still in a sling, and his older sister. Maya's voice shook as she tried to explain. He told me to pretend. He said Leo was watching, and that he'd be embarrassed if I turned him down. So I just went along with it. Ethan's sister blinked in shock, caught off guard by being dragged into this. Ethan, though, wasn't shaken. He frowned, his eyes locked on me, sharp with anger. Maya, we were together all the time, he said, his voice rising. You agreed to be my girlfriend. Why are you backing out now? Maya straightened, her voice suddenly firm. I didn't manage our friendship properly. And for the first time, it was clear she was finally trying to rewrite the past. I'm sorry, Maya said softly. I've only ever seen you as a friend, nothing more. The words hit like a slap. Ethan's face darkened instantly, and even his sister looked stunned. Just a friend, he shot back. You texted me all day, Maya. You came to my classes when I was hurt. You drove 30 minutes just to check on me. You told my sister you felt guilty for not taking better care of me as my girlfriend. Is that how you treat a friend? Maya's face drained of color. She couldn't answer. Her eyes kept darting toward me, desperate, searching for an escape. And then Ethan snapped. He spun toward me, anger exploding in his voice. It was you, wasn't it? You forced her into this. You were scared I'd take her from you. But we're the ones in love, you can't break us up. Before I could speak, Maya stepped in front of me, her arms flung wide as if to shield me. It has nothing to do with him, she cried. This was my fault, I wasn't clear enough. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. Ethan, you're mistaken. I lifted my hand, Chloe's fingers twined with mine. Sunlight caught the matching rings on our hands, making them sparkle. Chloe and I are getting engaged tonight. Whatever's going on between you two, leave me out of it. The words silenced him. His sister's hand shot out, gripping his arm before he could lash out again. Her voice was sharp, but calm, cutting through the tension. I don't care what excuse you're clinging to. You led my brother on, Maya. And now you want to walk away. You owe us an apology. Maya's shoulders sagged. She hung her head, murmuring broken apologies. Ethan's sister, unimpressed, pulled him away, dragging his fury with her. That night, Chloe told me that Ethan's sister had called Maya again, this time to tear into her, warning her never to play with her brother's feelings again. The next day, the engagement party glowed with simple happiness, relatives, laughter, food, and love. For everyone, it was a celebration. She was right, Maya moved like a shadow, lost, hollow-eyed. Yesterday's confrontation had left her shaken to her core. So Chloe and I decided to meet Ethan's sister. We laid everything out, the long, complicated history between me and Maya, and how Ethan had inserted himself in the middle of it. When his sister finally understood that her brother had knowingly chased a girl who was already tethered to me, her face went pale. She apologized, mortified. But I only smiled, shook my head, and walked away, my fingers laced with Chloe's. I didn't realize Maya was behind us the whole time, watching, her expression tangled between longing and despair. "Can we talk?" she whispered. I shook my head, gentle but firm. "Maya, you know me. We can't go back. And besides," I squeezed Chloe's hand, smiling at her. "I'm happy with your sister." Maya's lips trembled, but she only nodded. "I know." From that day, she drifted through life like she was moving underwater. She even followed us home after the party, silent, vacant, unable to say goodbye when Chloe and I left for the airport. 3 years passed. The day after I graduated college, Chloe and I married. Maya stood beside her sister as maid of honor, her smile brave, her blessing genuine. But when Chloe walked down the aisle, radiant on her father's arm, Maya couldn't hold back her tears. By the time I kissed my bride, Maya's makeup had run down her cheeks, her mother holding her close in vain. After the wedding, Chloe and I moved into our first home. Maya bought the house next door. She never dated, never tried to move on. Instead, she poured herself into helping us. When our son Noah was born, she was always there holding him, feeding him, giving us the gift of rest. Chloe worried. She tried to push Maya to think about her own future, about finding love. But Maya only smiled softly, bouncing Noah on her knee, as if this small piece of happiness was enough. Over time, we stopped pressing her. She became part of our rhythm, part of our family. And then, one quiet Saturday night, Chloe and I came home from a rare date. As we opened the door, voices drifted from the living room. "Noah, say Mama. Mama." And then, clear as day, our son repeated it. "Mama." We froze in the doorway. Maya was sitting on the couch, holding Noah tight, her face glowing with pure joy. Chloe and I looked at each other, speechless, unsure whether to smile or break apart under the weight of it.